Hi and welcome to Data Garden. Thanks for checking out my video. I hope you're doing very well. Today we are once again back with the RStudio for Beginners series, and in this video we want to go into the topic of functions, more specifically how to create your own functions. You may wonder, why do I even need this? Why do I need to be able to create my own functions, especially as a beginner? My answer is simple. It will allow you to keep your code orderly and will make it less prone to errors. Think of the following situation where you're doing some type of exercise and you want to do it 10 or 15 times with changing inputs every time. Now, the easy thing to do is, of course, to copy and paste your existing code and then change the inputs every time after you pasted it. This will, however, take up very much space in your code, and it will also have the danger that you do some error and you forget to change up something and fail to notice it. So if instead you create a function of this exercise that you're doing, and then you just apply this function to every input, it will be much cleaner and it will also be less prone to error. So today I want to show you two simple examples of how to create your own functions, and building on these you will be able to work with functions in your own code with every programming task that you're doing. So the first example that we want to go in is we want to create a little bit of a savings calculator that, dependent on how much you want to save in total, how much you have already saved, and how much you're saving every week, will tell you how many weeks you still need to save. Think about it as something that you would maybe do for your son or daughter who is eager to buy himself the new PlayStation and doesn't really know how many weeks he still needs to wait before he can afford it. So in this piece of code, we will be extensively using the readLine function, which is one function that I haven't used so far in this series. So I want to introduce that to you first. It goes like this, that you type readLine, and then in the brackets, you can see that you can only enter one thing. That's prompt, and you type that prompt equals, and then you can type some character which will be shown in the console, and then the user is asked to enter something, such as, please enter your age, and we run this line, and there you see it, please enter your age. Now my age happens to be 26 years old. And then we see the result is 26 as a character. With that in mind, let's go into our first function. We will call the function savings, and we will define it as a function, of course. And in the brackets, we have to define the inputs of the function. In this case, we will need three inputs: the total amount of savings that is needed, the amount that has already been saved, and the weekly savings amount. So let's first define the total, and we will define that as numeric, because remember, what we enter here will be saved as a character, and this is not very helpful for us if we want to do calculations. So we first type as numeric, and then we type readLine inside that numeric as numeric command, and we type another pair of brackets, so that now we have three closing brackets here. And in the readLine, we do the prompt that will be such as, you should formulate this question, for example, how much do you want to save in total, question mark. And then what I recommend is that you then write a space and a colon after that, so that it will be a bit easier to read in the console afterwards. Then you go two brackets to the right, so that you have that you're after the closing bracket for the as numeric command. And then you type a comma, and we proceed with the next input for the function. Now I will go to the next line here to make it a little bit more easily readable. Then we define the second input, and that will be the already saved. And we will define that in the exactly same scheme where we define a numeric variable from a read line command. So it's once again as numeric, and then in brackets read line, and then in brackets prompt equals, and then we ask the next question, how much have you already saved? Like this. And we once again go 2 brackets to the right, and we type a comma, and then we go to the final input, which is the savings rate, and that will be defined after the same pattern as dot numeric read line, and the prompt this time will be how much are you saving every week, and then we are done. We have defined the 3 inputs of our function. Now, what will be done inside the function will all be written inside these curly brackets. Now, if you're not familiar with these curly brackets, then I recommend that you watch the last 2 videos of the series, which were about for loops and about if-else clauses. And in these videos, we already make a lot of use of the curly brackets, and they will help you understand a bit of how these programmings in R are working. If you already know how these functions of loops and if-else clauses work, then feel free to proceed here. It's not that difficult, so I think you will be able to follow along just fine. So I will press enter once here to go into a new line to make my code a little bit more easy to read. And then we can write what we want to do with it. And in this case, it's of course quite simple, because we just need to do a very easy calculation, which will be, we calculate the amount of weeks, and that will be defined as in brackets. We first need to define the amount that still needs to be saved, which is total minus already saved, and then we divide that by the savings rate. And then, for example, if we still need to save 200 euros or dollars, and we're saving 50 euros or dollars per week, then the result will be 4. Now, what I will do is I will put a pair of brackets around this command, and I will still use the command ceiling around it. What this does is it will always round up to the next possible full number, because, for example, if it comes out that you still need to save for 5.5 weeks, then that's not really an intuitive answer, so it would be better that it says you still need to save 6 weeks. And then what we will do is we will define the output, and we will just call it out, and that will be, let's say we want to write a little bit of a text around it, such that it says you still need to save weeks, amount of weeks, keep going on. So we will define it as a text with the case 0 command that we have already used a lot in the previous videos. and then we start typing in characters such as you still need to save comma weeks comma weeks, keep going strong, like this. And then we will do another new line and we will type print out, and that will be it. So now let's run this whole set of code, and we see our function here. And now let's actually run the function. So I will type savings and press run, and it does not quite work. Of course, you need to do the brackets after the function, otherwise it will show the code of the function, not the function itself. So run again, and there you see we have the first prompt. How much do you want to save in total? Let's say we want to save 500. How much have you already saved? Let's say we are halfway there, we have saved 250. And how much are you saving per week? Let's say 50. And then if we did everything right, it should now tell us that we still need to save for 5 weeks. And there you go. You still need to save 5 weeks. Keep going strong. Now to see if we did everything right, let's do an example of where the amount of saving is uneven. For example, we are doing the same thing, except we want to save 51 euros per week, so that it will be done in just under 5 weeks. 500, 250, and 51, and it still says 5 weeks, just as we wanted to program it. So there you have it, your very first function that you have created yourself, and I don't think it was so difficult. I hope that you have found this example helpful in some ways. And before we finish though, I want to show you another simple example that in addition to user input also uses system input. So what we want to do is we want to create a little bit of a greeting message where the user enters their name and then gets a personalized greeting. So we're going to call the function greeting, and we will define it as a function, and the first input will be the name, and that will be defined as read line prompt equals what is your name. And because the name is a character, we don't need to write anything around it, such as character or something, because it is already saved as a character anyway. So then we write a comma before the final closing bracket, and we define the second variable, which will be the time, and that will be done with the command sys.time. And what we need is, we need to do with the as numeric again, because we want the time will as standard be given out as a character format, but we want to do some calculations with it. So yeah, we do as numeric, and then we type format, and again an opening bracket, and then the command that we need is this dot time, like this, and opening bracket, closing bracket. And now it gets a bit difficult. You have to go one bracket to the right, type comma, and then you define the format that you want. In our case, we just need the hour, and we can get that with an quotation mark percentage capital H. So it should be like as numeric, opening bracket, format, opening bracket, this.time, opening bracket, closing bracket, comma, and then in quotation mark, %h. And that will give you, for example, right now it's 2043, so it will save a 20. Once you're done with all of this, you go to the end of all the brackets and you type the curly brackets again to continue with the content or the calculations of your function. Now in this situation, we want to use a conditional output that is dependent on the time, such as if the hour is less than 12, it will say good morning, and if it's 12 or above, it will say good afternoon. So we will define out as an if-else clause, and if you don't know how the if-else clauses work, then I recommend you watch the previous video of the series, but it's quite simple, so you might be able to follow also without watching it. So we type in brackets and we first define the condition, and that would be time less than 12. So what it will do is, if the time is less than 12, we will do one thing, and if it's not less than 12, then we will do another thing. So we type comma, and then we first type what we want to do if less than 12 is correct, which will be paste 0, and then in brackets we type good morning, comma, sorry, there I got to the wrong line. So still in the paste 0 command, we type comma, name, and there I forgot there needs to be one more space. And then after the first closing bracket, we type again a comma, and then we type what we want to have if the condition is not true. And that will be paste 0, good afternoon, comma, and then after the quotation mark, comma, name. Just like this. And we see that we have set all the quotation marks correctly. So let's create the function and let's try it out. So it will be like greeting, and we will run the function. What's your name? Now let's say the name of the person is Linda. Oops. Linda. Enter. And nothing happens because I made a mistake. We need to create a new line here that will be print out. Otherwise, the output will only be defined but not printed. So let's run it again, run the command again. The name is Linda, and that's, yes, good afternoon, Linda, which is just what we expected because it's already after 8 in the evening. So there you have a very quick function that makes use of a user input as well as input that is grabbed from the system. I hope that you like this little trick. Maybe you can impress a friend with it. If you have found these examples helpful, then please consider giving this video a thumbs up. If you have any questions, then leave them below in the comments, and I will make sure to come back with you. If you have suggestions for further videos, then also leave them down below, because I will be coming up with more videos very soon. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.